Welcome to Joy and Gratitude. We are so excited about having another time to just sit in warmly and talk to you and talk amongst each other. I'm Nio Queiro, and my partner in crime is Miss.
Hello, it's Beth Mercurio. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We're so excited for you to join us in conversation. And some of you know we sometimes have topics and sometimes we don't, but this topic keeps coming back. You've heard it throughout some of our episodes because it's so important. But we're gonna talk really specifically today about what it means to be a creator in your life and how you can focus on empowering yourself to create and staying in a mode where we realize we actually have the agency and the ownership and almost the responsibility to choose how to be creators in our lives. And so Neo, when I say that to you, I know you love this topic too. What is swirling around in your heart and mind as we talk about creating?
As I've been reading, and I do my daily reading of articles about what's going on in the workforce, what's happening just in our psychological space as humans, came up with two really interesting things that pointed back to creating. Number one, we have a happiness crisis with our youth. And the happiness crisis is the expectation in life has always been that we have a U curve. And that is when you're young, in your 17s to 25, you're at your happiest. Life is easy. You have the belief that you can create the world. You're unstoppable. And then when you get into your middle age, you start feeling, well, not even your middle age, millennial age. You start feeling like, oh, there's some limited beliefs that I can't do as much. And then you get back happy again when you get older because you know that you've gone through it and now you're able to relax and you own your independence and who you are. What's happening today is that the youth do not see their possibilities.
Mm,
They have absence of creating. And that is terrifying because what that means is they cannot see a future for themselves. And that is the saddest thing that could ever be. And then when we look at us in the Gen X era, there is a resurgence of what we saw in the early 2000s, which was basically seasoned experts being erased and deleted from the workforce or demoted. So again, that desire, that strength to create diminishes. And it is just the essence of being that through your challenges, you take your past, your knowledge, your passion, and you still create. Because if you don't create, then you are just comfortably neglectful of yourself. And that's what's in my head. And there are ways to do it. And I know that I use some great tools and Beth, I know you use some great tools. Can we discuss the different tools that our audience can explore?
I would love to, but before we do that, I want to just comment on something that I found really incredible that you talked about in this U curve and the way in which you described that and how at our generation we I think grew up with less social media. We grew up with being thrown out in the yard and saying go have a great time and see you at dinner and a lot more autonomy, I guess is what I would say, or a lot more lack of structure where you needed to create your afternoon. You had hours where you had to figure out what to do, how to entertain yourself, what would make you feel good when you talk about happiness, right? What's going to make me feel good in the next 3 4 hours before I get to go home and have dinner, right? Do I want to see my friends? Do I want to go for a walk downtown and see if I run into people? We had a lot of independence. We had a lot of autonomy. And I think it gave us confidence that we didn't even know. So even then, you might
Yeah.
not have said, I'm a really confident human, but we were willing to try new things. We were willing to experience something we'd never done before, partly because we needed to entertain ourselves and our imaginations and our creativity. Think about all the games like your friends would create out of nowhere. You'd be like, let's play in the graveyard with this milk jug and figure out how to, play tag with a milk jug in the graveyard. Right? I'm making that up, but that's actually a few games
No,
put
no,
into
I mean,
one. Ghost in the
oh my
graveyard and
god.
pickle all
Eh,
together. All those games, right? We created them
absolutely.
naturally. Yeah.
Absolutely, and the rules. All these rules will come up that didn't even make any sense because you just created the game. But something
Yes.
that as you were saying that, I was remembering my grandson was about 1 years old at the time, and I was babysitting, and we were watching TV, and he put on this show. There was a list of shows that he could watch. It was a kid showing other kids how to play. And it was bizarre to me that they have dedicated YouTube channels of kids playing and other kids watching them play. These kids are not experiencing life. They're not thinking out of the box. You are so right. We didn't have a choice. We just created because we had to create. And yeah, we had to create. That's the way that we survived. That's the way that we were expected to be because that door didn't open until the lights came back on.
Hmm.
So we had to create our
You had
entertainment. We had to create our survival.
well. This is okay. That word is really impactful. It hit me right there because it felt like survival.
Yeah.
I think I project. I create a story that we then wanted to protect our children from feeling that they needed to survive. So, what did we do? We came in and we started to tell them how to do everything so that they didn't have to create, they didn't have to get uncomfortable not knowing how they were going to spend a few hours or how to manage a situation like being left on the side of the road because your parents were going to pick you up, but they ran late, something happened, and they couldn't get you. And so you sit there trying to decide, do I start walking home even though it's like 3 miles away? Do I stay in this one spot because we didn't have phones? Those were really uncomfortable moments where you had to figure out, like,
Hmm.
what's your move? And no one was there to tell you which move was right or wrong. And you had to really trust yourself a lot in those moments. That's just one I can remember really specifically many times being like, do I
Yeah.
go home now? Is now the right time? It's been a long time. Something must have come up, and luckily all with safe things, but things that happen all the time, like there was traffic or there was an accident and your
Yep.
parents were caught in
Yep.
traffic. I don't mean horrible things, but little things that
Yep.
really shifted hours, a half an hour. But in those moments we didn't like that, so then we now come in and we try to protect these our children from having to experience that. Technology is also layered on top of that, and all of a sudden they don't have that skill anymore. So now I say we own a little bit of that. That's why I love that we're going to talk about some tools, because I think we own a little bit of inserting ourselves for all the right intentions without thinking of the downstream impact that would say we're taking away our children's ability to use their imaginations, to create, to use independent thinking, to understand, should I make this move or not? Because we knew how uncomfortable that was, but there were so many benefits that I don't think we realized while we were in it. It did give us confidence. It gave us this ability to understand what we were capable of, to say, yeah, I can do that, and really realize that creating was inherent to who we were as humans. And I don't think it's as inherent now. And I think there's a lot of, we've just talked about a bunch of different variables for why that is true. But now, what can we do? And how can we help anybody that needs to be more into a creator mode but especially this generation, where to give them the belief in themselves to know they can still create anything that they want. They can lean into their imagination. They can trust themselves in having to make hard decisions that are uncomfortable sometimes, but will move them forward.
You know, before we even go into tools, I need to touch on what you said because this is so freaking powerful. Here's the deal. We walk around saying, "Oh my god, my kid can't go and, buy a house or leave the house, and they're, outside of college." Here's the deal. When I finished college, the expectation was take your bags and hit the road, Jack.
Mhm.
Figure it out. If it meant living in an apartment with 6 girlfriends, figure it out. If it meant you got married, it didn't matter. Figure it out. And it was uncomfortable, and we had to adult, and we had to pay bills. Now we have kids that they don't wanna move out of their parents' house because they don't want to go through the struggle. They don't want to have to deal with, "I don't have the house that's beautifully set up with all the right dishes and all the right glasses, and the fridge is completely full. I don't have to deal with a budget. I don't wanna deal." And we coddle these people.
I
"Oh,
was
we're
just gonna say we
mad."
own, yeah,
We own
we
it,
own
right?
that. We
But,
own that.
"Oh, no, but in the when we talk to everybody else, I can't believe this kid hasn't left my house." Well, you created it. We have to take ownership with this. And we have to teach ourselves how to create our own future for what we want for our future, but also teach our children how to create, how to go through a struggle. You, not everything is trauma. You're going to have challenges. You're going to have tough times. It is not trauma. Stop labeling it. Stand up and be an adult.
Mhm.
And now, here are some fun tools.
It's all that's coming to my head is Glennon Doyle, "We Do Hard Things." It's like, it's hard to actually not just wrap your children in your arms and protect them and hold them and make them feel good. Super hard not to do that because we wanted some of that. We didn't get it. But there's we talk about our beautiful pendulum. I'm swinging in my pendulum again. It's like,
Yep,
hey, but our generation, we didn't like it so much that we've now created this new situation. And I think you're right. We got to come back. We've got to own our piece of that and know that the hardest part will be to not make it comfortable for them to just come live at home, to make it a little uncomfortable so that they want to do something different and that they know that we believe in them, that they can go create their own lives. They don't need stability of our home to create their lives. Their lives are just waiting for them, but that's going to take some of these tools. So I will say, one that I want to share is, I think I may have mentioned it, and if I haven't, I'm going to mention it probably many more times because it's an incredibly impactful book called TED, which is an acronym for the empowerment dynamic. And many of you may have heard about the drama triangle, that we sort of
mhm,
always live in this drama triangle, and we all shift and play different roles in the drama triangle, right? Are we the
okay.
villain or the persecutor? Are we the victim? Are we the rescuer? Right? There's this triangle. But I love it, and you should read this book because it's like a fable and it's very easy to read. But you will be moved many times, going, "Ooh, I play the rescuer. I'm always in there saving people. That's what I play." Or, "Ooh, I'm always saying you're doing it wrong. You should do it this way. I know best." You know, or the victim piece, and this is the beauty, is how can you shift from victim, which is the world is happening to you. So when you were talking, Neo, about stand up and take that ownership and don't label everything to be trauma. To me, that is, the world is happening to you. And I do not mean in any way to minimize the real people's trauma, because everybody does have their own level of trauma. So I just want to make
Absolutely,
I want to make really
absolutely.
clear, there is certainly trauma, and that is not what I'm talking about. But for those struggles, let's say, for something that is feeling really hard, if you start to find yourself characterizing things as happening to you, like this is
Mhm.
happening to me and this is happening to me, and you start to list all of the things that are happening to you that make you feel buried, right? That make you feel like you cannot stand up. There is an ability to mind shift change and say, I'm not going to feel that way anymore. I'm going to actually remind myself of my ownership. I am going to move into what they call creator mode, which is why I really want to stick with it here for a moment.
Mhm.
How can I take an action that is different than the same action I take? What can I do to create a new story for myself, narrative for myself, a new action or move that will shift me out of where I am stuck? And that piece, just hearing yourself, just listening to when you start to talk in the this is happening to me mode, you are giving up all of
Your
your
power.
agency and your
Mhm.
power. And how do you say, I am going to do X, Y, or Z for me? And if you can move to for me, you are now shifting into creator mode. And it can be the tiniest step to move you out of, I can't do this because this is happening, to what can I do? There's got to be some small, different move that you can make that's for yourself to get you into a place of creator mode. And that's the kind of world I think we need to help everybody. It doesn't matter what age. I know we've focused really specifically on an age that is lacking this skill, but remind people, because even people our age forget they have it. They forget they have their agency. They need to be reminded, how can you move, one tiny mindset shift towards for me. I'm going to make this move. It's hard, but I'm going to make this move for me.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
and it's very important as you have experiences through life that you also use your past as your truth. So, you know that you've gone through a challenge in the past and you've gotten through it. Remember, go back to that and empower yourself with the
Mhm.
same actions that took you to the other side of the success. Your past can give you the learning of how to take that first step. And it's really important that you start celebrating what you have created in the past because it'll let you create new things. And that kind of rolls up Ted in looking at from the beginning to the end of how we move into full creation.
I have to stop you again because something that hit me really clearly, what you said was so important. Something that we don't do is stop, think about our accomplishments, be proud of ourselves, and put that into this sort of cachet that we can pull back on and go, wait a minute, I did this incredible thing and I'm really proud of it. One of the things I notice, whether it be with my friends, my children, my clients, they brush over all the good things. It's like it never happened. We talk and we focus and we stay in the struggle. But when they've done something incredible, when they've moved to the other side, when they've made an incredible shift or spoken their mind or spoken their truth, that gets blown right past. It's like, "Oh, yeah, I know. I did that. It went really well." And they move on to the next thing. And I love this idea of slowing down to be proud of those moments where we do create and we accomplish, because that is what gives us the confidence to remind ourselves that we can do it again and again and again. And it is a lifelong journey of the waves of life. And we're going to hit other hard spots, but we do need to really let those beautiful accomplishments and the moments where we should be proud of ourselves sink in. And I feel like in creator mode, that is an element that is so important to remind ourselves to say, you get into creator mode when you remind yourself of the incredible accomplishments and that you know you can do it again. And there's always a first, but remember that first time. When you've talked about that in one of our episodes, I remember it sticking out where you said, there's always got to be a first. You've always got to try, get started. That first will then become a second, a third, a fourth. But just try and make that different choice.
Another thing that's a really simple tool, and it's one that we all have at our fingertips, and we actually use unknowingly, and that is music. You see,
Mm.
everybody has a song that is pivotal to a point in time. That whether it's your wedding song and you remember that song and it gives you that, you should have seen Beth's face. Immediately she lit up because she went back to that moment of hearing that song in her head. Okay. And that is a great driver to get your dopamine up and get your energy up to the point that you can start creating. You are setting the platform for creation by using the music that fuels success in you. And it's a known fact. There's been studies about if a person creates a playlist of songs that are related to their most empowering moments. The song that you heard the first time after you were holding your baby, and it was the lullaby that you sang to the baby. It could be the song that you heard when you first met your significant other. It could be anything. But the fact of the matter is, those points in times and those songs can completely elevate your dopamine and and get your brain, your medulla, to actually recharge in energy to help you create. That is
Uh,
why you hear so many creators use music in the background. That music is a charge call. It's like, go, you could do it, you could do it. Remember this, you could do it, you could do it, you could do it. That energizes your whole body and you can create.
Neo, I mean, there's so many things. First of all, yes, for people that didn't see me, I had an immediate reaction because, of course, I could remember my wedding song. But even funnier is when you said maybe the song you sang to your newborn. I just remember I'm still laughing about it. I didn't know that many songs, but I knew all the words to The Gambler, Kenny Rogers, and I would sing The Gambler to my babies while I was up in the middle of the night going, "Where is everybody else? Like, when will the world wake up so I'm not alone?" Right? You're just like sitting with the baby, singing Kenny Rogers, The Gambler. And now my kids, of course, like know that song. I'm like, an odd choice for me, but it worked. And now it has such incredible meaning. We always sing The Gambler, but one of the things that you also, when you talked about this, that came to mind for me around music was the creator part, the empowering part, but also I think we often choose music to just allow ourselves to feel. So I know that I have my list of songs that are just going to make me cry, or they're going to make me sad, or they're going to make me release. And it will come on and I will let it out. But it still moves me to creator
Yes.
because when you are stuck, it is so much of it is this emotional inability to make a move, right? But if you listen to some of those songs that allow emotionality to move through you, it could be, I mean, I've talked about it. I do it while I'm on a walk. I'll listen to some of these songs. I'll be like crying, but I am releasing that energy that is holding me back. And then by the time I am done, I have already started creating the next potential moves. So you're right. Music is so incredibly powerful because either you're choosing the power music that's going to get you going, even like enhancing and amplifying and making it that much more incredible, or you're allowing yourself the freedom to process and feel and start to create a new create mode, which I love.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many different ways that we can use tools and books, but the most important thing is you are the owner of your story. And being comfortable is not an option.
Mm,
It just isn't. Um, so you have to always be moving, be creating. Someone asked me, what was the first thing that you care about? And it's like, what could I create to make a difference in my life, in other people's life? Creating can be simple. Creating is an experience. Creating is a word of support. Creating is
Mm.
helping a team move forward. It's simple. Don't make it complicated.
Believe
Don't
in yourself. Just
Yes.
believe that you have. Can I just take a moment? I have this. People know that I love, and I mentioned one of my teachers is Pima Chodron,
Mhm.
and this one you just said it, and it's sitting here. And I happen to think it's completely relevant, and it's short. So I'm just going to read it because you
Yeah.
just mentioned it starts with us, right?
Yes.
So this is Pima Chodron, and it's called "The Only Reason We Don't Open Our Hearts." The only reason we don't open our hearts and minds to other people is that they trigger confusion in us that we don't feel brave enough or sane enough to deal with. To the degree that we look clearly and compassionately at ourselves, we feel confident and fearless about looking into someone else's eyes.
Powerful.
Powerful. And there it is. So look at yourself, remind yourself to be brave and courageous, and know that it is simple. Do not overcomplicate it. You have everything you need to create.
Wow. And with that, it's time to go into the joy note song of this episode. And I have two, but one is really, as you were saying that, it came into my mind and I was writing feverishly some of the words. So I may be wrong in some of the words because I was just writing like a fool. Um, but I'm going retro, Beach Boys,
Ooh.
mm, Breakaway. In the middle of that song, there's a section that says, and I can break away to a better life where shackles never hold me down. I'm going to make a way for each happy day as my life turns around. And when you hear the song, it's such a snappy little sucker, right? But the
Yeah.
words are so powerful. And then the second one is tried and true Tracy Chapman, Fast Car,
That song.
right?
I love
She's going
that.
to find a place to belong and she's going to be someone, be someone. Let's look into our gratitude notes.
Yes. All right. Here we go. Hopefully, you can all hear them making a noise as I reach in. The word is enough. Enough. I almost feel like I don't have to say anything. I think we know we are enough exactly as we are. So trust in that. You are enough. I am enough. Neo is enough. And use that enoughness, that feeling of enoughness, to go out into the world with confidence in creation.
Thank you for joining us and for having a moment of reflection that we can find our happiness. We can find our way to create our path because we are enough in joy and gratitude.